Okay, on to the Street Talk section of the podcast then. Like we were just saying, so it was Wednesday when it was last on, and now we're Saturday. So that's only, 3 days gone, and so much of it has dropped out of my head. Thank goodness we took some copious notes that will be able to hopefully refresh our memories about this. I suppose the big part this week was everything that was going on in the Rovers, wasn't it? It was Daisy and Bethany and Jenny and Carla. That was how that was where all the drama really fired up. I call in this story Kitchen and Bitchin' this week, because I think over anything else this week, the Rovers' kitchen was the biggest talking point. And then everything that came up after that didn't get as much screen time really. We've got the Leave Me Alone story, that they think it's all over story. Tracy's gone off to Spain. I thought she changed her mind at the last minute, but apparently she's gone. We had, and then just a couple of bits from the Terrorized story, the Joseph Stalin, Paul the Plug, and the return of Ed Gamble as well.
What happened? What happened in these stories? The only thing I really vividly remember is the Rovers story with the kitchen.
Well, let's see if we can refresh our memories, and maybe our listeners one as well. Because usually by the time we put the podcast up, it's only a day gone since the episode's been out. So maybe everyone else who's listening has forgotten as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want me to do this one? Do you want me to do the main bit of reading?
Why?
And
I just said this
reminding?
is the only one I remember.
Oh, okay. Well, go on then. You tell us what happened.
Kitchen and Bitchin'. On Monday, the snark off between Bethany and Daisy is out on the street later because Daisy's just been out shopping and buying loads of expensive things, but she pretends that she bought them from a charity shop.
Yes, and this is where it all begins.
Oh, this is where it gets unravelled, isn't it? In the flat. Bethany's ranting on about Daisy to Daniel, telling him how she thinks that Daisy's still trying to win him back. He denies this, and he's like, oh, if it wouldn't even go back to it anyway. So, but both of them don't seem that convinced by what he's saying. Then Jenny and Daisy, they're also having a bit of friction, aren't they? Because there's still the bit of conflict ongoing about who's actually in charge of the Rovers, and also the previous week previously, Jenny had bought herself a new outfit with Stephen's money.
Yeah. So what's going on here? Is this just, are they taking the money straight from the Stephen's account, or have they got it squirreled away somewhere, or are they trying to save up funds to pay Carla back, and rather than giving it all back to her, they say, oh, we'll just excuse me.
Well, I can answer the question.
The main problem that I had with this week, and I do love a Rovers story, and I love the main characters that are involved here, is that I was never completely sure exactly what Jenny and Daisy's plan was to pay Carla back. It all felt like.
Well, no, that's the point, though, isn't it? They were fooling themselves about whether or not they were going to even do it. It comes out this week that Daisy was fairly sure that they weren't going to bother.
Mm.
And to answer your question, they have an account with the money in it, and it seems like, I think Jenny said, and I'm sure you haven't written it down, that there's about 15 grand left.
Oh, no, I didn't write that down. I missed that.
And so that's what they're spending at the moment.
Right, okay.
But obviously, Jenny doesn't want Daisy to carry on spending it. And Daisy feels entitled to it because she's the one that came up with the idea and did all the hard work.
Mm. It comes across to me as a little bit like, and I'm sure this isn't the case, but this feels like it. Like the Corrie writers, storyliners, whatever, were like, well, let's just let them take Stephen's money and we don't need to come up with a plan for how they're going to pay it back because they're not going to be able to come up with a plan. But, it just...
No, I don't understand why you're saying this. We went into this year knowing that Carla, because of how stories work and because of how Coronation Street works as a soap and because of all these characters... And because it's a plot, why would you not take advantage of a plot that's there waiting to happen? We knew that Carla was going to find out that they'd stolen the money and that something would happen. And it wouldn't just be a case of Jenny and Daisy paying her back. What did you really genuinely want last year when they got the money? When was it? In November? Or what was it?
Yeah, November, December.
Like, genuinely, Carla and Daisy and Jenny sitting down with an Excel spreadsheet working out how much money they were going to funnel through into Carla's accounts. The whole point of it is that this is why Carla was fueled to be so cross with them, because they had no plan and they were fooling themselves that there ever was a plan. And Daisy didn't even believe that there was a plan. She thought it was just them kidding themselves, and Jenny's living in La La Land.
Maybe that's my problem then. The fact that Jenny decided to get this far into it
but
without thinking of a plan herself.
Have you not met a human being in your life? This is what we do.
What a cat person.
This is what we do. It's like, I'll quit drinking after Christmas. Oh well, maybe I'll do dry January, but then I've got that work to do in the middle, so I won't worry about doing. Being human is in the perpetual state of kidding yourself that you're going to improve things or change your life in some way, or I'm gonna exercise every day. I'm gonna start drinking Yakko. I don't know. Human beings are crap. We're all rubbish, and we do stuff like this all the time.
Okay.
This to me was the perfect human nature in action, and the architects of their own demise, weren't they?
Yeah, I guess.
It was obvious that they were never gonna be able to work it out. They did, like you said, they didn't even have a plan, and that's why Carla's so justified in being angry.
Okay, you carry on.
That's how I feel about it.
No, that makes sense now you say it like that.
I don't understand. I know sometimes we say these things like, why didn't they take precautions to ensure this doesn't happen? And the storyliners and writers are sitting there thinking, well, and in which case, what would the show be about? If everybody
plays it safe.
Everyone's nice to each other, and they all plan. They're very sensible financial accounting. They all, they don't gamble or drink, or they don't do anything wrong. They're rude to each other. They never have affairs. They're just perfect examples of how humans should live peacefully and in harmony with one another.
You convinced me.
And that would make Coronation Street no longer the worst soap apparently on television as it is at the moment. So Jenny is mad at Daisy. She's found all these bags that she's been buying stuff, and she tells Daisy, you better not spend any money from that account. And Bethany can hear this conversation. She's not hiding the fact that she's like bogging in on them. No,
she's very obviously earwigging into the side of the bar, isn't she? Very handy that she happened to be there as always. I was expecting, I can't remember whether it was this episode or the next episode, but do you remember all the transitions that they were doing? There's at least 3 scenes over the past week or so where the camera kind of pans to one direction, goes to something black, and then pans out and you're somewhere else. And I think it was at the end of today's episode where there's the bar that then the camera pans down and it ends up in Carla's flat, doesn't it? But I was expecting Bethany to be hunched up on the floor listening in again.
Yes, me too.
I suppose you only need to hear it once to like that touch paper, which is what set Bethany out for the rest of the week.
Bethany reminds me of one of those little elves from Dark Crystal.
I don't understand that reference.
Or with like super blonde hair, massive boggy eyes and big earwigging ears to see all the secrets and hear everybody's conversations. The
way that she was looking, it put me in mind of... Do you remember that picture of Anna Windass listening in? I think she was in her garden or in somebody, and she was listening into Sally's garden, and there was a famous picture at the time of her just going, oh, do you know what? I'm getting blank look. Anybody know the exact picture of Anna Windass? I'm thinking I'm hearing something juicy picture and I can't believe it. That's the exact look that Lucy Fallon was doing while she was listening in to Jenny and Daisy.
Of course, I do not mean that Lucy Fallon has big boggy ears and giant starry eyes. We all know it was a metaphor.
She's just really good at acting.
She's just good at hearing things. Right, so Bethany sees Carla looks down, and Carla says, Gary's told me he wants to sell the factory building and he wants me to buy it, but I can't afford it. And Bethany's digging for details, which Carla gives her, and it ends up with Carla saying that Audrey's probably got Stephen's journal at the moment.
Yeah, this bit to me felt a little bit like, let's get the plot over to Bethany in the most convenient way possible. I'd forgotten that Gary even owned the factory building. Did you?
Yeah.
That all came out when there was the whole roof collapse thing, but...
Corey always gets confused about who owns a business and who owns a property, and
I think it's just the viewers do.
Well, no, but sometimes they want us to forget that the business and the property are two different things, and sometimes they act like it's the same thing.
Well, anyway, yeah, like you said, this conversation very conveniently ended up with Carla telling Bethany, "Oh, Audrey's probably got Stephen's journal."
So Bethany goes to see Tim, and he just comes out with the fact that he picked Daisy up from Selfridges, and he reckons that she's been spending money there. Bethany and Daisy go into another war of words later, which ends in Daisy kicking Bethany and I think Daniel out of the pub. Christina catches up with Bethany in the shop later and apologises to her on Daisy's behalf. And then Bethany starts talking to her about the money that she lent Daisy.
Supposedly.
And she's really getting really insistent about how she'd do anything for her family. And Bethany's like quite... trying to dig, where's this money come from, or what happened, why did you lend it? But she's not really giving her anything because Christina's no grass.
Oh.
In the pub later, Bethany asks Audrey what happened to Stephen's journal, and Audrey says that she just threw it away, and she's quite disappointed in that because she was wondering if there was any information in there that I don't really know what she thinks is happening at this moment. She's picking up a bunch of stuff which actually is linked, but how does she
clues
know
were
that
being
it's linked?
pelted at her from all directions on Monday.
It really felt weird because, like, what has Steve? Why is she interested in Stephen's diary? She knows the money's gone missing. What's that got to do with?
I can't remember what she expected to find in there.
And would you really be that suspicious of Christina lending money? I don't know. It felt like she was gathering clues for a conclusion that she had reached without knowing what even was happening. But I'm not really that bothered about the ins and outs of this. Bethany finds Daisy in the backyard and she says, "Why don't we call a truce because of Bertie?" And Daisy smirks and she's like, "Oh, well, why don't you come for dinner?" And she's like got this evil smile, and they're both like aghast at this idea that they're going to spend the evening together eating food, because when they turn to the camera, but Bethany walks off and you've got both their faces in shot and they're like, "Oh my God, what are we doing?"
Daisy was kind of, she had a few expressions. She's smiling and then Bethany walks off and her face falls and then Bethany turns around and she puts on the fake smile again.
And she's got this really good empty, glassy stead smile that she can pull off, which is so catty and scary. She just looks like a mean girl, doesn't she?
Yeah, well, she was a bit of a mean girl this week.
But Bethany's just as much of a little turd at times.
Well, they both are. This was.
I love this.
I enjoyed them being bitchy at each other, but I didn't really know who to root for this week.
But I think that's
my
good.
heart tells me that Daisy is the one that I should be siding with. I think I prefer the character of Daisy more, and Bethany can just get right on my wick.
Well,
by the end of the week, Daisy was very, very difficult to champion, and I think that the development of her character, it's just been a little bit too all over the place and patchy. And one minute you're supposed to be rooting for her, the next minute you're supposed to be thinking, "Oh, what a cow she is," and I'm just left a little bit muddled about what the programme makers want me to think about what sort of person she is. And I know that she's a very complex character, and Daisy, and she's nobody is completely perfect or completely evil, but I feel like I'm being tossed around a little bit too much with, are we supposed to be rooting for her or not?
I like that though. I think that's a good... I like the moral ambivalence. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy it. I also really hope that they get this feud and keep this feud going on, because Corrie needs a feud. Like Gail and Eileen, you had Carla and Tracy, which was at the end very tedious, but Bethany and Daisy just always hating each other. Feuds are great for one-liners and like really iconic scenes, and this could be the making of a modern Corrie feud.
I'd like it to be more than just catty marks exchanged. I want there to be a little bit more depth to this feud.
What?
Like sort of some really deeply devious plans constructed to try and
imagine
undo the
how
other.
devious you'd have to be to invite someone to dinner and make them chop the potatoes.
Well, she did. That was the thing on Tuesday's episode, wasn't it? I don't think that... I'm just trying to remember this now. Was there anything that Daisy did that was deliberately provocative to Bethany? Like I kind of left Monday's episode thinking, oh, what's Daisy got in store?
She didn't have anything in store.
Nothing in the end.
She seemed to just want to impress Bethany to make her feel inadequate. But it didn't
maybe
work.
that was all it was.
And I was also really surprised at the menu. And I know this is just stupid of me, but I love anything to do with food on TV or just in general. Everyone knows that about me. So when we watched Downton Abbey, I was always really disappointed at the camera angles they used because you can't see what people are eating. I know this is weird. I don't care. So when I heard that there was going to be a dinner party, I know it's never the focus of the story, what the food is, but I always want to know what the food is. I thought that Daisy's menu was such a weird choice.
I already remember there were carrots and potatoes in
a girl her age. Are you really making roast chicken and apple pie?
Oh, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
She had apple pie for dinner. She definitely knew that she wanted apple pie for pudding, and then she had roast chicken, which is I say nice, but very, very, very boring.
Yeah.
And then she didn't really know what
You're not going to win a
potatoes-
come dine with me with that, are you?
She didn't know what kind of potato she was going to make because Bethany at one point asked her if she's going to do mash or dauphinoise or whatever, and she says all of them. But why haven't you planned this? I mean, how are you going to impress Bethany with that? She's been living in London.
Yeah.
You know, they don't eat roast chicken in London. They eat quails and poisson.
Yeah, no, I get that. It didn't
And also
bother me too
Manchester, like London, like lots of up and coming cities, is a really foodie place. There's loads of cool stuff. There's loads of new. It's not like she's a northerner through and through, and they only eat swede and turnips. Come on,
I was more looking
Northerners
forward
are
to
just as much excited by new food as everybody else. Why would she be making chicken?
I was more looking forward to the tenseness of there being a dinner party situation, and if you get it right, a dinner party episode of anything can be right up there with the best, can't it? Because you're putting on these this front as like we're sitting nicely and we're having a dinner party, but we hate each other, but there's really somebody's got a secret or somebody secretly resents the other, and people are kind of being bitchy and catty until the grand reveal. And I felt that on Wednesday, although we got a bit of that, it didn't to me stand up as, you know, the best of the best dinner party themed things that I'd seen on TV before.
Yeah, and that's why I was surprised at the menu, because normally, although it's hack, one of the plots you can do with a dinner party is, the food's gone wrong, or I was too ambitious, or I'm actually a terrible cook. Like, they didn't do any of that. They did have a bit of food related drama.
Well, they had the Bethany turning up the oven on the apple pie and making it burn, didn't she? But in the end, Daisy just went and got another one. It just felt like they were just a little bit more restrained than they could have been with the dinner party sabotage.
And also that everyone was so laissez-faire about the bloody food. Like, they just pitched up, starts chopping potatoes for dauphinoise. You can't just spontaneously make dauphinoise. You need the ingredients. You need cream and cheese and things. But you can't. And then she wanders off to go and get herself a new pudding, and comes back. And meanwhile, Bethany's buggered off. And how did this chicken even get roasted in the first place? I'm so baffled by. It's like whoever wrote this episode has never cooked a meal in their life. I think
not everybody cares quite as much as you do about the intricacies of food, and I know that this is absolutely your passion.
But everybody's made food before.
I don't know.
And what was she doing with these carrots? Just slicing carrots up. What are we having? Boiled carrots and roast chicken?
We've thought far too hard about
this.
I think
what was the menu?
The most important talking point on Tuesday's episode, Gemma, I think you'll find, is why was the Rover's kitchen so big? That's the real mystery here.
Why didn't they at least have one line in going, Waterford's did at least one good thing and renovated the kitchen? Why didn't they say one thing about...
I think...
Did they think we wouldn't notice?
It really was you're not going to notice this, aren't you? But, you know, we've seen, because we did a video about this a year ago, that the Rovers has changed shape and size and layout numerous times over the years.
Do you think that's what inspired them? Do you think they're like, yeah, it does change all the time. No one cares. In fact, it's part of the charm. We can do whatever we want.
For the last good few years, the Rover's Kitchen has been this tiny kind of galley affair, hasn't it? That you could barely swing a cat in. But yeah, for this scene here at the beginning of Tuesday's episode, massive old kitchen, a proper industrial, this is what a pub kitchen probably should look like kind of thing.
And weirdly, it seems as though it's part of the Rover's set, because there's a scene where you can see from the kitchen into the back
it must
room,
have been built onto
and
the
you
side
can
of
see
it.
the back room into the kitchen.
They've clearly dismantled the old kitchen.
They've done
and just
something.
gone, yeah, let's make it
what
bigger.
was there? But what was there?
What was
there? The other side.
Well, they're if they're not into Rosamond Street, well, I think they're past Rosamond Street. I think they're into the medical centre at this point.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what set was in the studio where the other side of that galley kitchen.
I'm just trying to remember, and I think there was a bit of space. I'm trying to picture it myself, because that's one thing that I remember about the Rovers is that all of the Rovers into the hall, into the back room, into the kitchen were all connected.
Yeah, they're all connected in reality.
And although we say, it was a bigger kitchen that they showed, it was, twice as big, 3 times as big, and it was very, very small before.
It was ridiculously small before. This is a much more realistic kitchen. It actually is in keeping with the history of the Rovers Kitchen, which has been shown to be a fairly large industrial kitchen. It also never made sense that they were making hot pots and sandwiches in there regularly, and also cooking their own food in there.
Yeah, if you were to look at the early 90s scenes, there was a few Rover's Kitchen stories, weren't there? They have the health inspector, and the most famous thing that happened in that Rover's Kitchen is when there's a tarantula on the loose, and Alec Gilroy has to hide it from the health inspector. And there, it's a massive old kitchen, possibly even bigger than it was now. So I guess it is just a case of saying, well, if we were content with the fact that it used to be big and now it's small, why wouldn't we be content with the fact that it's gone bigger again? Is today's internet age, go back and watch it and compare the fact that you can do this now, does that mean that we should be less accepting of that sort of thing?
That's a good question. I don't know, but
because it really has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah, it really has.
Think about the upstairs of the Rovers, where they had that whole lounge for about 2 or 3 years. Now it's gone. The select use was an important part of the Rovers for 20-25 years. An extra huge function room there that now, it never made sense where it was back in the day. Nothing about the internal layout of the Rovers has ever made sense.
How much space they have.
No, so I'm less concerned about this, and I'm more ooh, it's a new set. That's kind of cool.
I just thought it was funny. Yeah. I wasn't outraged or anything.
Well, we didn't watch Tuesday's episode live, did we? Because this is when we were out. I think we were just having dinner in Manchester on Tuesday night. But what we did see is people's reactions and going, "Oh, what's going on with the Rover's Kitchen?" I was like, "Oh, how exciting!"
That's because we were packing to go to Belfast.
Yes.
And we had to get up really early in the morning.
So we ended up watching this episode when we were in Belfast, I think, and I'm not bothered. Could they have had the scenes that they had in the old Rovers set? Possibly, because what actually happened in it? It was Daisy chopping her carrots.
I mean, if anything, it would have been funnier because they would have been elbowing each other and getting in each other's way. But I am interested in this because spoiler alert, at the end of this story, Carla takes control of the Rovers, and I wonder whether this kitchen set has been created partially to enable future storylines that will involve things changing at the Rovers.
I do wonder, but then we might have said the same thing last year when they showed the upstairs of the Rovers for the acid attack storyline, and that was in it for all of one episode. And I think, I'd like them to reuse that set again. I mean, they're not going to get a whole lot of use out of the Rovers' bathroom, are they? I don't think we're going to be seeing Jenny Carla having a shower anytime soon. But I suppose there's more likely that we'll see this new kitchen set. What would be a little irksome is if they decided in future appearances it just went back to the old thin
really
one.
Annoy me.
Now it's like this, it kind of needs to stay that way.
For a few years at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought this is interesting. Yeah, I would like to know what they're going to do with it. I would be very disappointed if it never gets seen again.
I mean, it's not very often that they go into the kitchen anyway, is it? A couple of times a year.
It's a new location for people to have conversations in the Rovers in the back area,
Mm.
isn't it?
Yeah, more somewhere else for someone to
Overhear
conveniently overhear something that Jenny
I'm
and Daisy are talking about.
chopping onions. Oh, one's fallen on the floor. I'm going to duck down and get it. And then in walks. Anyway, so Bethany's going to go to the Rovers and help Daisy out. And Daniel's a bit suspicious, or maybe he's worried. He doesn't know why she's doing this. And she convinces him it's all okay. And
Yeah,
she says...
She does say, I'm going to stir things.
Yes.
A bit of a double entendre there.
She turns up at this newly expanded kitchen, and Daisy's like, I'm okay. She's got the most bizarre outfit on, which is mind-boggling because she changes later. That wasn't even her outfit.
It's very sleevey, isn't it?
It's not got any shoulders.
I think, it doesn't surprise me that Daisy isn't the most frequent visitor to the kitchen.
No woman on Coronation Street can cook.
No.
Is the ongoing joke, because that's a big character trait of women, that they can cook. So therefore, when a woman can't cook, it's a notable and hilarious thing.
I think it's just Sean who's
winds me
mostly
up.
in charge of the cooking in the Rovers now, isn't it?
I know, it just winds me up. It's like, oh, it's funny when a woman can't cook. Is it really, or should men and women both be able to cook? Why is it just women? They never show the men not being able to cook, and if they did, everyone would be like, oh yeah, well, I guess men can't cook, can they?
You always go on about that.
It really annoys. It gets really annoying. The only reason it's funny is because the insinuation is that women should be able to cook, which is sexist. It's a sexist joke.
Oh, thank goodness you can. That's all us men are saying. Anyway, Bethany goes over, doesn't she?
She goes over there, and Daisy's like, oh no, everything's 100% under control. But Bethany insists, so she gets a job chopping potatoes, and then when Daisy rushes out, she turns the oven up on the newly constructed apple pie that Daisy's baking. Then later on, they're both aggressively chopping vegetables and slicing them very thinly.
I did like the direction of that. There's a few, zoom close-up shots of the potatoes and the carrots and the very, like you said, aggressive chopping going on. Like, I wish there was something else between my knife and the chopping board here, they were thinking.
Bethany's saying, oh, I'm really sorry about the article, and Daisy says, well, I'm sure that they would have sacked you for some other reason, so don't worry too much about being fired for that. And Bethany's getting annoyed, but then her trick works because Daisy smells the burning, gets the apple pie from the oven, and so I'm going to have to go to town and get something. So she asks Ryan to keep an eye on Bethany while she's gone. So Ryan and Bethany are there, and Bethany tells him she wants to make peace with Daisy, and then she starts digging about this money that Christina has lent. And she says, I don't understand where she got all this money from. She doesn't strike me as particularly rich. And then Ryan is about to answer, but Jenny calls him into the bar. So Bethany decides to start snooping. She looks around all over the place. She's looking at the post, she's looking in cupboards, and she finds a box full of receipts, and then something very suspicious, which she hides in her bag.
But no, because I didn't watch this one live, I think I possibly had seen someone online talking about the fact that she uncovers Stephen's diary. Did you know at the time that this is what it was going to be?
No. So, it's not difficult to guess, is it? She leaves, and Daisy comes back with this extravagant pavlova. Why would you buy a pavlova?
Do you know what? Not everybody is a top chef. If we can't say that Daisy can come up with anything more exciting than roast chicken and carrots, I don't think she'd be able to make a pavlova.
But why would you buy a pavlova? Why would you not buy a cake or something else?
Because pavlovas are fancy. It's like,
they're not fancy.
She's probably and shall I get a pavlova? Shall I get a viennetta? I want something that's going to show I've got a bit of class here.
I need something really classy. So, we're having pavlova next week.
Lovely.
Although you haven't asked your dad yet.
No, I haven't.
She tells Daniel about wanting to bury the hatchet with Bethany, but makes it clear to Jenny that she's hoping it's going to make her see her true colours. Tell you what, I would be terrible then, wouldn't I, owning a bakery, because I'd be like, well, there's no demand for pavlovas.
Yeah.
I should never make one.
Yeah.
And then I'd be missing out on all the sales. It would just go funny, wouldn't it? It'd go all spongy and weird.
People don't care.
And foamy.
It's just you.
All right. Bethany's at home later, and she's looking through this find. It's Stephen's diary. There's even the family tree there, which was quite odd.
I thought that more was going to come from that.
Maybe it
was
will.
it just a way of telling viewers it's Stephen's diary without... Because she obviously couldn't tell anybody that she'd found this thing. And
But we know what it looks like because we surely would remember it's like a brown leather Filofax looking thing.
I suppose she had been talking to Audrey about it earlier on in the episode or the week, hadn't she? So maybe we didn't need to be told.
She could have opened it on page 1 and it could have had Stephen's diary, keep out,
January the 1st,
inside.
New Year's revolution.
Kill everybody.
Resolution, I mean. Take the bin out. That family tree was quite interesting. There was also, it had Baby Billy on, didn't it?
With
a red square around it.
That's a bit odd. What are you up to, Stephen?
It might as well have just had a big red cross through it.
Bit odd.
But anyway, I think we probably read more into that than we were supposed to.
Oh, maybe there's some kind of future possibility that Billy's identity has been stolen by somebody, by Stephen. No, this is what happens. I don't know whether you can do it in this country, but loads of cases in America where missing people have run away and they've taken a baby who died at birth or very young, take their social security number and use it for their own purposes, become a new person.
Well, maybe you've just uncovered a potential future plot line then.
Well, was there a reason? It felt like there was a reason we saw this family tree, and if it is just so that we know it's Stephen's diary, I'd be a bit disappointed. But then again, we read so much more into most things than I think you're supposed to.
Yeah, why did she buy a pavlova?
Why did she buy a pavlova? It doesn't make any sense. Are they trying to appeal to Australia and New Zealand because they like pavlova? Are they trying to muscle in on Neighbours viewers? I don't know. More research needed. Right.
Anyway,
so Bethany and Daniel arrive at the pub. You didn't write anything, or is it in a different story, about Bethany telling Daniel to have a shower and change his pants?
No, I did not write that.
I genuinely thought that was bizarre. I mean, I know that they're supposed to be equals in this relationship, and it'd be weird if he treated her like the child that she is. But why would he take being told by a basic teenager to wear fresh underwear for a dinner party? I think she was only
joking.
I don't think she was. I think she was acting like it's obvious that you should have a shower for a...
Oh, well, I don't know.
Well, anyway. Why did Bethany tell Daniel to have a shower? Doesn't make any sense.
What were his new pants?
Is there going to be a story later on about Daniel's body odour?
Is Daniel a boxers or briefs man?
Let's find out. Anyway, they arrive at the pub. They're all dressed up. Bethany's curled her hair. Bethany makes another comment about Daisy's outfit and how it can't be a charity shop thing. That's a designer thing, right? And she's like, oh, no. But Ryan goes to get changed and Daniel goes to wave Tracy off. And
Tracy's leaving.
Yeah. Dinner starts. Bethany's not happy when Daniel chuckles at one of Daisy's jokes. And Daisy passively, aggressively asks Bethany if she's still writing. And Daniel's like, no, I thought you guys were going to stop being catty. But then Bethany brings up Daisy's dress and she says, you know what? I saw one like that on King Street and it was £490. Where is this magic charity shop that dispenses completely new designer outfits for a fraction of the price? And Daisy's like, oh, I couldn't possibly tell you because it's my little secret. Then she heads into the kitchen and she swigs a bottle of wine. Bethany continues saying, you know what? Tim told me that he picked you up by Exchange Square, not a charity shop. And then she brings out her trump card, which is Stephen's journal, and accuses them of stealing the money from him, which I don't know how she got...
She's managed to piece it all together pretty accurately now and got a very good picture of what Daisy actually did. Did
she really? Oh no, she did. She didn't need Stephen's diary. There's nothing in there really that gave her that clue. It was more the fact the diary was in the house.
This was another kind of bit of a problem for me, that when... Daisy did guess Stephen's password being whatever it was related to that
postcard.
Yeah, the postcard. That felt a little bit suspension of disbelief about it. So for Bethany to correctly predict that Daisy was somehow able to figure out the password from this diary, although maybe she thinks that the actual password was written down there.
Well, she didn't have time to read the whole diary. It's just the fact that they had the diary.
Yeah.
That's tipped her off because she was kind of piecing it together. But the trouble with this is there doesn't feel like there's a smoking gun here at any point that really Bethany picked up on to piece this together. But it's one of these situations where if she hadn't worked it out, we would all be going, come on, it's obvious, all the bits are there. It just didn't ever feel like she should have been able to work this out in such a conclusive way.
Yeah.
Like, you could suspect it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit confused because it's hard sometimes to separate what you know from what the characters know or what they could really work out. Anyway, she accuses her. She's like, you stole the money. And Daisy says, no, I took the diary to get closure for Jenny about Stephen's death, which I think is completely right.
And all his murderings.
This makes complete sense.
Yeah,
And then
does.
she said, I was going to give it back, but I forgot. And Daniel's like, I've had enough of this. Come on, Bethany, we're going home. And Daisy looks annoyed. And when they get back, Daniel and Bethany are arguing. And he's like, I'm fed up with your conspiracy theories. And he sort of leaves her there to go and get Bertie. Daisy tells Jenny about what's happened, and Jenny's panicking because they shouldn't still have the diary, they need to get rid of it. But then Daisy says, if Audrey comes looking for it, it's going to look suspicious if we've got rid of it. And Jenny says, we need to hope that Bethany doesn't go blabbing about everything.
Yeah, this is the bit where the camera panned down into the basement below in the depths of the Rovers, which is Carla's apartment, yeah.
Ryan goes to Carla's flat and tells about what a weird evening it was and the diary, and Carla finds this all very bizarre, and Ryan tells her Bethany accused Daisy of using the diary to get the money to buy the pub, which is bonkers, right? And Carla says, drinking and thinking.
How did you find this eventual reveal to Carla, the way that it came out? On the whole this week? Because you're right, we always knew that she was bound to find out at some point. Was this a good way of it being brought to light to her?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of would have preferred her to have found the diary, because it feels like there's so many more steps here than there needed to be.
It was also the fact that Bethany was the one that revealed it, and I don't really like Bethany. I think that she's kind of been a bit annoying recently, the fact that she's been proven to be right, it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, we didn't need Bethany in this story for Carla to find out. There was nothing intrinsically Bethany about how she found out. Like, she had to be told everything that happened, and everybody else already knew what happened. So the fact that they've introduced Bethany back as a character so that she can follow this trail of breadcrumbs that had to be scattered for her by the other characters, so that she could uncover that Stephen's diary was how, it just feels really convoluted, and like Bethany didn't need to be in the story at all. I mean, it adds plot, doesn't it? It adds episodes to the story.
I'm still
and it can't all just be the most direct way of getting from A to B. But I'm not sure why Bethany's here at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm still finding it difficult to think, do we need Bethany back full stop? Like, when it was announced, I think it was rumoured quite early last summer that Lucy Fallon was back to Coronation Street. I was thinking, okay, that could be quite exciting. But everything that's happened with her so far has just served to underline the fact that she's a bit of an annoying, kind of snitchy, sneaky character who's just there to bitch about people. She jumps into bed with Daniel the moment that she's got back. She's not had tons of screen time, and just overall there's been not a whole lot that's been really, really likeable about her. And now at the end of Tuesday's episode, rather than me thinking, well done Bethany, you got it, you've cracked the case, I'm thinking, oh bloody Bethany, why did you have to find that for? Whilst at the same time trying to juggle the idea of, I knew this was always going to happen, and Jenny and Daisy, you pair of pillocks, why did you even do this?
Yeah, it's all a bit, and it's one of these stories where I'm like, I feel like where this story is headed is not somewhere I want to go. And can we also, I know we keep jumping ahead in this story to complain about where it's going, but can we also just all acknowledge how really, really irritating it is that Coronation Street created one of the best behind the bar staff that they've had in years, and then only so that they could break them up when the Waterfords bought the pub. Then they didn't even bring them all back properly, and now they're getting rid of Daisy. Yeah,
well, even the whole Waterfords getting the Rovers closed story felt like a bit of something or nothing, didn't it? Because that happened last summer, and it was only about 3-4 months that the Rovers was closed.
No.
Very few people complained about it being closed. Then it was just as easy as it, money dropping out of the sky, that it reopened again. It didn't make any difference to it.
It did. It did make a difference because it ruined the sort of the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, we've still got Glenda, Jenny and Daisy, but now Daisy's being kicked out, and I just feel like they keep putting stuff together so that we can get sad when it gets broken up. But actually, it's better to keep the stuff together because it's good. I know I'm not being very clear.
Well, what you said about...
But why create this really great dynamic team which works so well together and then split them up so we can be sad about it when they could just keep them there for years being really brilliant and fun?
Jenny and Daisy, to me, have been the most watchable and the most enjoyable when they've been firmly on each other's side and when they've had each other's back, and when they're just riffing off each other in the back of their Rovers and maybe like both sitting on their thrones at the back and casting judgment over their customers. That's what I've really, really enjoyed. But not when they've been at each other's throats, and it feels like at the end of the week this is what we've been left with. The other thing that you mentioned about the team, Glenda, we've barely seen her this week, have we? And it was only a week ago that she got attacked and the Rovers was raided, and there was a throwaway line, I think it was on Monday's episode, where she was saying, "Oh no, I'm a trooper, me. I'm gonna keep on going through this," and where it felt like we were partially developing something with Glenda's PTSD. Not that I wanted to see a whole lot of that, but the fact that it was not anything, it wasn't brought up at all this week. It felt like it's just so fractured all over the place. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where was Glenda during this? Nowhere.
Don't know. Right. So, on Wednesday, Christina's chilling in the Rovers. Jenny and Daisy are setting up for the day, and Jenny's still stressed about Bethany's revelation. But Jenny's like, no, Daisy's like, no, we got away with it. Bethany's been left with egg on her face. She tried to reveal stuff, and nobody believed her. So
I couldn't believe that Daisy started off feeling so cocky and confident about this. And yeah, this is yet another shift of personality for Daisy on Wednesday's episode, where she was, I would say, quite rightly concerned by the end of Tuesday's episode that they've majorly screwed up here, but by Wednesday, having slept on it for one night, she's just like, oh no, whatever, nothing's going to go wrong. She's and back to being too cocky and full of herself again.
In the cafe, Jenny tries to make out to Carla that Bethany's an idiot and she doesn't know what she's talking about, and Carla is testing Jenny a little bit by going on about how poor she is. And so this really gets under Jenny's skin, and she feels very guilty. So back in the pub, she tells Daisy that she's got this really convoluted plan that they're going to pretend to be new customers and order consignment of knickers and carry on buying these until they pay back what they owe.
Yeah, would have liked to have seen just gradually increased the whole Rovers being filled up with maybe this is why the kitchen was expanded, so that they could have their consignments of knickers.
There could have been a week of this, of like Jenny like phoning up the factory going, "Hello, my name is Mrs. Bottomley, and I need some pants for my shop."
She could have worn her telephone wig. Didn't Daisy mention something about wearing a false moustache and a wig or something? I can't remember what it was, and I was like, Jenny, this is the perfect opportunity for you to bring out your own wig.
I mean, the plan is stupid. They agree it's stupid. I mean, for a start, where are you going to get this stuff delivered to? Secondly, you have to subtract the cost of labour, production, and raw materials from whatever it is that you are buying. You can't just say, I owe you £50,000, so I'm going to buy £50,000 worth of pants, because it costs them money to produce. So you'd have to work out how much profit they're making, and that's what you pay back. So you end up paying back way more than you ever would have stolen in the first place. So they agree that's the stupid plan. Daisy says that Carla will shop them to the cops if they try to confess, so they're going to have to just forget it ever happened and not pay her back.
Just hope that she doesn't find out.
How convenient for Daisy. Jenny panics when Daisy's flaunting her new designer handbag, and Daisy's really not worried that anyone's going to catch her out. And Then later on she starts singing karaoke and Jenny comes over, they start bickering. Then it gets amplified all over the pub as Carla walks in.
Yeah, when as soon as they got the karaoke mics out again, I turned to you and I said, "Oh, what's going to be broadcast over the mics this time?" And it just happened to be their argument, which Carla picks up on.
So Carla finds Jenny cooling down in Victoria Gardens later and asks her if the fight was about Bethany. And Jenny looks really guilty, so she starts digging a bit more. And she lays it thick about, all this money was stolen from me and the workers at the factory. And something doesn't smell right here, Jenny. And Jenny just, breaks immediately. She's no master criminal. That's why I kind of like this about Jenny, is that she acts tough, doesn't she? And she acts hard, but really she crumbles so fast.
I'm glad that she did confess rather than get found out, I suppose, because it...
Well, she got found out and that's why she confessed.
Yeah, I know, but rather than continuing to deny it, I suppose it shows some kind of strength of character that she realises that she's got to do the right thing.
So she says we were always going to pay it back, and she's crying, and Carla looks really hurt. She just dissolves into tears.
Carla was brilliant. I loved her in this scene. Ali King, she hasn't had a huge opportunity to really go off on one for a while, but she really did lay into Jenny thick here, didn't
she's like,
she?
it was
She was
my money.
screaming at her.
And Jenny's trying to explain, we tried to save the Rovers. And so Carla storms off and Jenny's trying to chase after her. But Carla's like, get your hands off me. And she storms off, goes into the Rovers. Jenny's following her like a little duckling. And she's like, get in the back room. And is Daisy there too?
Yeah, Daisy, yeah.
And Carla's like, right, these two have stolen all my money. And Ryan cannot believe he's hearing this. And Jenny's like, we pay about a promise, £500 a month. And Carla's like, 3, 4, carry the 8, how many? 40 years? That's not long enough. I mean, it's too long. I'm going to the police. And so she's serious about this. She goes to the police station. Ryan's there with her. And it's taken a long time for them to be seen. She's fuming. And Ryan's trying to talk her down. Sure you want to go this far? And she's like, yep, I hope they both get sent to jail.
This felt like a bit of a well-trodden path for Coronation Street, that someone's going to shop somebody to the police and then for whatever reason that they don't. And is it because because it's taken too long to be seen, or somebody gets in there first? At this point, I was thinking, I don't think I seriously expected Jenny and Daisy to pay for this, and I still don't think they will now. I think that they've kind of got away with it.
Well, I think
legally speaking.
Didn't I say this would, they're not going to ever get in trouble with the police about this? Carla's going to find out, and then she's going to make them pay her back.
But they should.
Why?
Characters, it feels like it's happening a little bit too often, that when characters that you're supposed to root for do something devious and kind of a little bit illegal, if they do it to another character who we're also supposed to like, generally that character won't shop them to the police.
Forgive them, yeah.
There's an awful lot of forgiveness, or saying, well, I won't shop you this time, but XXX, here's my demands. And I think for what they've done, if this was real life, they would deserve to be dragged across the coals for it. Through the police station, and not just what Carla's eventual solution to this has been. And I guess this is partly a consequence of Corrie saying, we're going to have this huge devious plot, and there's going to be a big revelation when it comes out, and how on earth are they going to get away, how else are they going to get away, I can't think of what I'm trying to say, how they're going to get away with this then, and they just do, it's that they focus a little bit too much on the how grand the plan is, and just how scheming they are, and how are they going to get out of it? We'll just say that the person that they trick forgives them.
Yeah, that's a bit weak, really. But equally, I don't think Carla would have done this. I don't think she would have gone, I'm going to take them to police. I think she would have sat down and thought to herself, what is the best thing for me to do? Because she is smart. She's a businesswoman, contrary to how she acts on Corrie, where she seems like she can't run a business.
Well, we found out she's good at maths, didn't we?
She's good at maths.
Got to do that to be a business.
But, really, she should stop and think, and I think Carla would have done this, if I go to the police, what's the likelihood that I will get all of the money back? I don't know, but But if I make them give me the money back by threatening them with the police, you know, I can't. Once I've told the police, that's it. It's completely out of my control what happens. They might even get away with it. They might get community service or something. Yeah, they'll be stressed out for a bit, but they might lose the Rovers. But if I actually just want my money back and I want to punish them, I could just carry on with what it is that she eventually does.
But in the end, the main reason why Carla doesn't seem to go through with this with the police is that she gets a bit like gooey-eyed about the fact that Ryan still loves Daisy. And,
yeah, that's weak as well.
You know, okay, you know, you fancy this girl, so I wouldn't want to see her thrown in jail and see how much that would upset you. But that's what she ends up doing.
Well, yeah, she. Honestly, if this guy is so gooey-eyed over Daisy, you would want her in prison because she's a terrible person. You want to get as far away as possible from your beloved nephew.
Yeah.
So anyway, Carla realises Ryan, like you said, doesn't want Daisy to go down because he loves her. And he's begging her not to go through with it. So they go back to the Rovers, and Jenny's crying and with gratitude when she realises Carla hasn't reported her. But Carla is not interested in Jenny and anything she's got to say, and she declares the Rovers is now hers until everything gets sorted out, and she fires Daisy. So Jenny, Carla and Ryan sit down to try to figure out how this is going to work. And Carla says that I'm not running the place, but I own it. I'm going through the books with a fine-tooth comb. So will my accountant. We're going to go through repayment terms tomorrow. And even though it looks like Daisy's not allowed back at the Rovers, Ryan's not going to dump her. So Daisy comes back and she's a bit deluded about this, going, oh, Carla's just going to calm down, everything will be back to normal soon. And then Ryan gets mad and Jenny's still just snivelling. And Ryan's like, you do not seem to get what has happened here. And he huffs out. And then Daisy lays into Jenny, blaming her for what Carla's found out. And she says, you're a liar and a thief and you're the same as me. But really, it was her idea in the first place.
It was her idea in the first place, but Jenny didn't need to go along with it, and I guess she just got caught up in the pre-New Year excitement of having the Rovers back again.
Well, wasn't the justification along the lines of like Jenny asked Carla for money and Carla wouldn't give it to her?
I don't think there's any way that you can really justify what they did.
Yeah,
but
I
think that
I'm
was
not
what was
saying
said
that's
in the
the
show,
actual.
something along
That
those
makes.
lines,
I'm just trying to explain it. Now, is Gary wanting to sell the factory ever going to come up again, or was that just a convenient way to provoke this stuff into happening?
Well, they have been having a few money conversations recently in the Windass Connor household, haven't they? Because they were talking about Gary was going to buy the builder's yard a month or so ago, and then he didn't have the cash to get around to it. And there's the whole thing about, can Maria take time off work to look after Liam? Can he take time off work? So I think that is going to be going through with that. But at the end of the day, I can't see that that's going to make a whole lot of difference to us as a viewers who owns the building, considering that we couldn't even remember that it was Gary that owned it anyway. I'm more interested in seeing what does Carla owning the Rovers look like, because that kind of came out of nowhere from me, but it also made me think, what legal grounds have you got to say I am now the Rovers owner? Like, are you going to have your name above the door? Are we going to have anything signed to say that you're the legal owner of the Rovers? And if they are, then how are you going to keep that hidden from anyone else without it all coming out into the open about Jenny and Daisy stealing from you? There's also the lingering issue of Bethany still knows or is very suspicious about what actually happened. So if Carla's now sitting there as cock of the walk at the Rovers, Bethany's going to realise that Jenny and Daisy did actually steal from her, and there's nothing holding her back from revealing this to anybody.
Yeah, then the whole plan will go completely wrong anyway.
Yeah, I mean, is Carla just hoping to be a hands-off boss from this? And if she's hoping to cash in on all this copious amounts of cash that the Rovers apparently taking into, well, how's that going to work? Because I was under the impression that the Rovers is hemorrhaging money.
This falls down quite badly when you look at it for any length of time, to be honest.
Yeah, like, apart from the odd karaoke night and the speed dating last week, what has the Rovers done to get itself away from going further into the red that it was last summer? if Carla has got as much business and house as we're supposed to believe she has, then this is a seriously bad plan, because she'd have seen all the red flags and think, oh, I'm not getting involved in this place because they're not turning in much of a profit.
Also, how are they going to work? So they own the Rovers now.
But she doesn't, does she? Unless they sign something.
No. Jenny and Daisy own the Rovers now, right?
Yeah.
So if Carla's accountants go through everything with a fine tooth comb, are they not going to be like, oh, hang on, it looks like here that there was fraud involved in you purchasing it in the first place? Are they mandated reporters? Do they have to report when they find stuff out, or are they allowed to go, well, it's nothing to do with me, I'm just adding the numbers up?
I don't know what they're going to find out from this. It feels to me, and maybe shoot me down if I'm wrong, that this is just a very convenient way of putting the story to bed for a little bit, and we're supposed to be content in the knowledge that Carla is keeping her eye on things and she's skimming off the money, and eventually we'll forget about it. She'll probably will calm down at one point. There's probably going to be a bit in this where she'll say, oh, you know what, I don't need all the rest of the money back, I've had all I need.
But equally...
But where on earth is this money going to come from?
Yeah, and equally, Carla was in dire straits when she lost the money, and she somehow managed to turn it around in the space of, 5 months.
Yeah, she just needs to find a new contact in Spain or something, doesn't she?
And now she's looking for money maybe to buy this factory site from Gary and the building and everything. She's not going to get money off of Jenny and Daisy, so that doesn't solve the problem, because they've got £15,000 left. They said they've got no real money. They can't borrow any money. They can't give her any more than a few £100 a month.
No, because the Rovers isn't making enough profit. It's never going to make £250,000 worth of profit. So, or £235,000.
But is Gary just going to do what he did to Ed and go oh, I changed my mind now? I was going to buy the builder, so I'd change my mind now. I was going to sell the factory, change my mind now.
I think...
I just like to go around provoking plot points.
I wonder whether Daisy's going to try and... the way that the plots are going at the moment in some places in Coronation Street, nothing would surprise me. Is Daisy going to try and bump off Carla or something because she's the only one who actually knows the truth about the money stealing, and that's the only way that they'll be able to be free if Carla is now... But then Ryan knows. Oh my god.
Also, this story ends with Daisy basically being jobless and homeless. Her boyfriend lives with Carla.
Yes.
So she can't move in with him. That would be awkward. So what's she going to do? And she doesn't seem like there's no... We don't address this point at the moment. There's time next week. But to me, I wouldn't be going on about blaming Jenny and calling her a liar and a thief. I'd be saying, I'm homeless and I don't have a job. What are you going to do about it? Because this is all your fault. Even though...
I'm just wondering whether we're going to see another change of allegiances in the terms of who's going out with who soon. Because Daniel's clearly... I can't see how he's going to stick Bethany for much longer. She's clearly so much more immature than him and so much pettier than him.
But he's not exactly like the grandiose Duke of personal responsibility.
I wonder whether this is possibly going to drive a wedge between them. Maybe Daisy's going to try and get a clause back into Daniel after that. I'm interested to see where Daisy goes at this point, because she's clearly in the I've got nothing to lose kind of pace at the moment.
Well, Daisy could definitely really work on Daniel here, because she could make him feel very bad about what Bethany's done. Bethany, for no real personal gain, has now caused Daisy to be jobless and homeless and possibly end up going to prison.
Yeah.
And yes, she did the wrong thing, but I think Daniel could be quite easily persuaded that Bethany is a wrong-un from this. And he is so good at getting morally outraged by things that he's probably done himself. That I can see him confronting Bethany and them having a fight, him kicking Bethany out, and then Daisy moving in, because I don't know where Daisy's going to live unless she just says to Carla, well, I've not got anywhere to go, you can't kick me out of my house, I'm going to stay here and you can deal with it. Because, I mean, what will Carla do?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I
Like,
was just kind of...
even if she kicks her out, she still could give her a week to find somewhere to find.
I'm wondering, like, how fragile is the relationship between Ryan and Daisy now, because we're getting towards the end of Friday's episode and he still had no intentions to drop her, but he did huff off in the end, so I don't think it would take much for him to dump her.
She's really messed up.
She's proper messed up. And I'd like to see her actually have some consequences for this, and not just
it.
Yeah, not just I'm going to hide away in the background and we'll be left to believe that everything's going on all right. Really.
I'd like there to be an actual follow-up to this, because Corey's really good at going, wow, that was a climax. Let's come back to this in a few weeks when everything's moved on and we don't have to deal with the complicated ramifications of this mess that we've made. And hopefully you'll forget some of the finer details so that we can gloss them over.
Yeah. My biggest want, of course, at the end of the day for all of this, is that Jenny still retains control of the Rovers. I don't like the idea of Carla being, manager, landlady, owner, anything like that at the pub. The factory is her domain. Jenny massively screwed up, but I still think that despite the heinously criminal acts that she's committed in the last 3 or 4 months, I still would like to see her somehow triumph and be the head of the Rovers at the end of this, because I think it's where she belongs.
But can I also just add in that I feel like all we've done here is exchange one bickering pair with another, because if Carla's in charge of the Rovers and Jenny is still there, they're going to bicker over whether to have karaoke and speed dating. But what difference does it make if it's Jenny and Daisy bickering or Carla and Jenny bickering?
Well, I think that hopefully Carla's going to keep more hands off.
I mean, Carla being behind the bar at the Rovers is a concept that interests me. But she won't
can't be, because she needs to keep it hidden from everybody that she's got a stake in the business.
They've just kind of like made this technical, like, behind the scenes change that will mean nothing to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be hugely significant, but what are we actually going to see of it? I mean, we don't know how this is going to actually shake out, do we? It could be that Carla realises next week it's only going to work if she is officially in charge and she makes up some story. But then again, that's another thing where it's going to come out eventually. Or will it come out eventually? I don't know. It's just another secret on top of the secret. Secrets all the way down. Anyway, should we move on from this?
Yeah, move on. I think all of that we were talking about is kind of the reason why, as I was watching Friday's episode, I wasn't loving it as much as a lot of other people seem to have been. I thought that performance-wise, all of the leads there did a cracking job. I was particularly impressed with Ali King. Not that Daisy or that Charlie and Sal were any less than their usual brilliant selves. I think it was because we got to see some proper fire from Carla, which we hadn't seen so much of lately. So I definitely enjoyed that side of it. But just the technical, how is this actually going to work, and is this going to lead to anything better, and are they going to be able to come up with a satisfying fallout for this? I don't know. I'd like to hope that they can, but we will move on.
It's on very shaky ground at the moment, the same way that David Platt's garden was.
So, the bullying story this week, which saw the return of Violet to the street again. You were saying earlier that...
What's the point of her? Where's she come back? I want to see her again.
She's back again.
Back again. Staying in a hotel. Which hotel? Chariot Square.
Just so happens. That reminds me of... the fact that we were in Belfast just this past week for a couple of days, and one of the things that we learned on the tour of Belfast is that during the Troubles there was only one hotel in the whole of the city, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted to go on holiday to Belfast. It was only journalists and diplomats there, and it really does feel that it's the same in Weatherfield at the moment. There's only one hotel in Weatherfield,
and it's always under siege.
Basically. Anyway, so Maria's having troubles of her own on Monday because she's not able to get to work because she's too busy fussing over Liam. She can't let him out of her sight. She's missed a bridal hair consultation.
She's just driving me nuts. She's so single-minded with this whole homeschooling thing. She doesn't seem to live in the real world about what that entails or whether she's doing a good job. Like, you can spend all day long doing this, but if you're rubbish at it, you're doing more harm than good, aren't you?
I don't think that she cares as much about that as she does the fact that
Keeping
Liam
him.
isn't, trying to find more ways of taking his own life.
She's really...
That's what she's really... She doesn't care at the
She's
moment
not-
whether she gets an A in his GCSEs or whatever the grades are these days.
A 9.
It's, she needs to have him under her surveillance 24 hours a
Well,
day.
this is more a manifestation of her anxiety than it is anything else. And I hope that they address this because she needs to get counselling.
Well, they have a little bit, haven't they? I mean, at the end of the week, the scene that she has with Audrey is a little bit, open your heart to me kind of thing. So anyway, David threatens Maria and says, look, your thing with Liam, your council business, it feels like your hairdressing comes a distant third after all of this. So if you're not careful, Gran's going to be giving you the old heave-ho here.
So I recall when Audrey was trying to decide who's the manager, she said she's going to stay the manager and they're just working there.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I was thinking on Monday, I was like, oh, I've forgotten which one of these people is the manager now.
Tis Audrey.
Well, it's Audrey's probably thinking it's a bloody good job I didn't make Maria manager. Look at her, she's such a flake.
Yeah. So this is what causes Gary to find Carla and say, look, I think I might sell the factory building here. You can have first refusal.
Because Maria, guess what? You don't get paid to teach unless you're officially a teacher.
No, exactly. And Carla says, like, I can't buy it. Stephen bled me dry. So Gary tells Maria that, like, how about we share homeschooling of Liam and you just reduce your hours at the salon? Easy. Maria's like, I'm not sure whether Audrey's going to go for that, but lucky for her, Audrey thinks it's fine. David thinks it's probably going to mean extra work for him, but very handily for Maria. That's all going to be okay. Now, at the end of Monday's episode, and I forgot this by the time I was watching on Tuesday, she's got her mystery box, hasn't she? Do you remember she gets a delivery that we don't get to see what's inside it, but it turns out, I assume this is what it was. There's the spy cam that she's using on Tuesday to check up on Gary and Liam's GCSE maths lesson.
She's not checking up on the lesson. She's checking up to see
that Liam's okay.
Liam's okay. Yeah.
Yes. So Tuesday is the Gary day in the chair. Meanwhile, you've also got Sean telling Eileen that Dylan is settling in London, and he's kind of a bit sad about that, really. But he's up again tomorrow for the trial, so that's all hunky-dory. Are you kind of expecting Dylan at the end of this story to leave the programme and head back to London? Has this just been a whole long, reintroduce Liam McShane playing Dylan for this one story and then he's going to be off again? Or are they going to have a reason for him to move back to Weatherfield, do you think?
Oh, gosh. I didn't think he was leaving.
The way that they were talking about him on Tuesday is he is now relocated back to London again, but to me, I think he's probably going to end up back here again in the end. And this is just a little blip in his living arrangements. Anyway, back to Maria. So we get I enjoyed the scene with the bride and the bridesmaid. She was, I know you don't like the phrase, but she was absolutely a bit of a bridezilla, wasn't she? This woman that comes in demanding that Maria performs miracles with her hair.
Hang on a minute.
What?
What are you calling her bridezilla? Because she wanted, first of all, being a bridezilla is not the same as being delusional, which is clearly what she was.
Yeah.
She's delusional. She thinks that she can get the sort of hairstyle out of the amount of hair that she had. But later on, she's perfectly within her rights. She's going to get married that day, and Maria's fannying around.
I suppose it is later that day.
And especially, being unnecessarily stressed out by somebody on your wedding day is not what you want. And also, I love Audrey, and maybe this is ageist, but if I went into a salon and I saw Maria there and she was going to do my hair and then she buggered off and Audrey came out, I'd be a bit worried that Audrey wouldn't have exactly the same sort of tastes that I had, that I wanted my hair to look like. She's perfectly capable of doing it. But also, when you hire somebody to do your hair, you want that person, not somebody else.
Yeah. Well, the main problem with Maria wasn't necessarily that she was telling the woman she couldn't have the hair she wanted. It was the fact that she kept on dashing out to the back to check on her spy cam, wasn't she?
Also, I hate the way that society does this by telling women that we should, it's really important on what you look like, and you shouldn't be ugly, you shouldn't be fat, you shouldn't be unattractive, you have to be all these things, and society tells you this over and over again. And then when you actually take it seriously, everyone's like, you're so shallow and vain. Why are you so caring about so much about your importance? You're just a despicable human.
Just can't catch a break, can you?
No.
So this maths lesson that Gary is doing, I found this quite interesting. And I don't know what's on the GCSE maths syllabus at the moment, but Gary was telling Liam all about prime and composite numbers, and I'm like, I definitely do exactly that in year 5, and now Liam's in year 10 or 11 doing the same thing. But who am I to question what they get taught in GCSE? I've got no idea. Anyway, so Maria keeps on checking this, and then she's having a look one time and she has a bit of a panic because she can't see Liam, so she rushes off home, finds that they're both fine, pretending that she's just come back to get out a pair of special heated rollers, but really she's screwed up massively with this poor bride.
Yeah.
This poor bride who is only trying to live up to societal expectations on her, how she should look on her wedding day.
This is why I don't like the phrase bridezilla as well, because everybody tells you, or, it's the happiest day of your life. This is the most important thing. You've got to spend money. You've got to buy this. You've got to buy that. You've got to have matching this. You've got to have almonds in the colour of your theme. You don't have a theme, well, you need a theme. Don't worry about the groom. He's not important. It's you that's important, and you need to look good. And then when you go, well, in that case, I want to be very sure that I get the specific look and whatever. And everyone goes, oh, calm down, bridezilla. Oh, getting your knickers in a twist about getting married like it's important.
Well, the bride gets a free haircut done in the end anyway.
I hope they're not cutting her hair on her wedding day. I hope they're just styling it.
Whatever, I don't understand hair. Maria gets to have it.
I can tell.
Yeah, I know, thanks. Maria sits down with Audrey for a bit later and is like, I'm fine, there's just family stuff going on. But she doesn't open up quite yet. That's for Wednesday's episode. What else did we have happen? There's not a whole lot. There's just a bit of Sean kind of being worried about what's going to happen with Dylan and Violet being back and everything. Sean's just worried that, about what's going to happen with Dylan and whether he's going to plead guilty or not, really.
Well,
as soon as Mason's behind bars, then they can put the whole matter behind them.
Well, he's still got his head in the sand about Dylan and the fact that Dylan said all along he's going to plead guilty. And he's still confused about whether he's actually going to do what he said he was going to do. Yeah.
Wednesday, I didn't know that whether Wednesday was going to be the trial or not, or the hearing or whatever it is that we're waiting for. But I guess that's for next week. But we do have Violet and Dylan turn up, and like we said earlier, Chariot Square Hotel. They're going to be staying in. Maybe you've heard of it. And Sean's trying to,
be a good dad.
Be a good dad. Like, I've got this freshly ironed shirt for Dylan, but she's like, I've already bought him one myself. He's just completely feels
superfluous.
Yeah, to the whole thing.
Well, she's kind of making him feel superfluous. In a way.
Violet is being a bit of a cow still, isn't she? But
she
I
blames him.
suppose it's understandable. If your son, you leave him to your dad for a few months, and then it turns out the next minute he's in court.
Case, yeah.
But she's not being particularly likeable. We have Violet and Dylan go to the bistro later, where Bella comes in. I don't think we'd seen Bella before. I got a bit confused when I was watching it and thinking, is this the girl that Dylan was taking up to bed in the Rovers a couple of months ago when they broke in there? But it's not. This is just supposed to be a friend at school that... Has she been in it before? I don't know. But she says, oh, do you want to come along to the precinct for a little bit? It's good to see you back again. And Violet allows it, but just for an hour. But then when Bella goes off to the entrance of the bistro, she's on the phone to somebody saying, oh, he's coming to the precinct, how long are you going to be? So she is helping Mason to come up with a little plan to get at Dylan. So Mason springs out on them in the precinct and is basically... this story to me just felt like a whole lot of let's get you back into the zone of this story, and nothing huge happened. It was just another, you better not say anything, you better not bring my name up in court, Dylan. It was, back in the day before they had this block storytelling, they wouldn't have needed any of this, because I'm sure the last time we saw Mason, he was telling Dylan, you better not bring my name up in court, was he?
Yeah, probably. And he's like, I'm going to set your... Well, he's out now, isn't he? That's the difference. Like, when they first both got in trouble about this knife, Mason was taken into custody, but now he's not in custody anymore.
Yeah, and
but he had his trial though, didn't he?
I can't remember. I don't know.
I'm not getting involved in this.
Anyway, he says, look, if you dob me in, then I'm going to set my 2 older, meaner brothers on you, and we'll go after Sean as well. So, raising the stakes there.
And then they all bugger off and Dylan gets left with Bella. And she's like, oh, I didn't know he was going to do that.
Yeah. I didn't know how much we were supposed to be believing Bella there or not, but I don't think we're supposed to care particularly. Basically,
she's like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
About this?
He's left at the end of the episode thinking, what am I going to say on my trial? We've got Sean saying to him, everything's going to be okay. I'm so proud of you for everything you've done. Maria telling Dylan, we're relying on you to tell the truth about Mason. Mason's telling him, you better not say about me. So he's left in a bit of a quandary about what's he going to say on Monday. Because leading up to this, we also had
David talking to Maria about this bride.
Oh yeah, the fact that they gave her a bad review and Maria starts having a bit of a cry again, and this is eventually what led into that scene with her and Audrey, with Maria explaining to her, or Liam was looking online to how to kill himself, and Audrey's like, I had a breakdown the other year as well, and I went through a similar thing. But I live to tell the tale, and I'm sure Liam will as well. And lots of people really thought a lot of that scene, didn't they? But I don't know, it just didn't quite hit home for me. How did you find it?
It felt like the sort of scene they put in because they thought that people would go, why didn't Audrey mention that she did? I can see what you're saying. Like, it feels as though it's almost like Corey's saying, it's just a fact of life that every so often you'll just want to kill yourself, and just don't do it and everything will be fine. It's like,
No, it felt more
to me.
Think, it felt more to me like they were saying, oh yeah, what a drama. I had what a drama, and rather than making it feel really kind of serious and heartfelt and desperate and personal, exactly, it was more like, oh, I had a storyline like that too. And I know it wasn't, and maybe it was just me, but I think that Audrey's, when she had her breakdown story a few years ago, that bit about the suicide was quite powerful when it came out, when she was out for dinner with Ken and the others, and she admitted it. But in the long and short of things, that was a tiny part of her plot, and it didn't really have any mega lasting impact. And I just got a feeling and a worry that that's going to be the same with Liam, because it's been weeks and weeks since he was looking up online about ways to kill himself, and rather than having the story focus fully on him and what that's meant for him, Liam's been really out of the picture, hasn't he?
Yeah. There's
been very, very little about his mental health and more about his schooling. Maria's been slightly worried about it, but what we were left with here in my head was one character who took an overdose, I think she said, but then that story wasn't really much of a focus for longer than a week or two. And then you got Maria talking about Liam, who has been very much sidelined in this story, and so it didn't really have the impact that it needed. It was more just as a snap, it felt like that to me. Now, Samia Longchambon is a fantastic actress. Sue Nichols, don't need to say anything about her. So yes, they played it as well as you would expect, but no, it was that a necessary plot point, or was it just there to try and make us go, oh, so sad, which I think it did for a lot of people. I don't know, it just didn't completely hit there for me. Okay. Sorry, and that's maybe why Friday's episode, I saw lots of people. What did we give it? We gave it kind of a low bog standard when we rated it afterwards, but we saw that the vast majority of people put that as a banging episode, and I think it was partly to do with the fallout with Carla and Daisy and Jenny, which, like we said earlier, it didn't quite hit with me because the whole circumstance of them stealing money from Stephen and using it to buy the pub, it was a bit messy anyway. And then also this scene with Audrey and Maria, all of that combined just didn't quite work for me. But maybe we were just a bit tired when we watched it. I don't know. What do we think's going to happen with with Dylan? Is he going to bring up Mason? Is this going to be the end to Mason after next week's episode? Is it going to be in a nice little neat box? Is he going to realise, I will do the right thing? Or are they going to prolong this, do you think?
The idea that Dylan's falling on his sword is bizarre anyway, I think, because he decided he's going to take full responsibility for everything that happened with Liam's bullying.
Yeah.
Because he feels so guilty about the fact that Liam was suicidal about it. But blaming it all on yourself does nothing to any. It doesn't help Liam. It doesn't help anybody who Mason's going to bully in the future. I don't know. Well,
we'll just have to wait and see. Not long now till we have to find out. Okay, so the Tracy storyline, Gemma, over to you. Were you going into this week expecting that Tracy would be away from Weatherfield by the end of it, or did you think that she'd have a last-minute change of heart?
I really don't know what's happening here, because I don't think that Kate Ford's leaving.
No,
but I also don't know that she's not.
No, lots of people have been asking us online, is Kate Ford really leaving? Is Tracy gone?
Don't know.
Honestly, don't really know. The fact that, as far as I'm aware, she and ITV haven't come out to say, well, that was the end of Tracy.
There hasn't been like a goodbye Tracy, here's Tracy's best bits.
No.
Kate Ford saying goodbye to the fans and look forward, like Chris Gascoigne had a goodbye video.
Yeah.
I don't think Kate Ford has.
No. So this feels to me like it's just one of those temporary Corrie exits. Maybe it's going to be 3 weeks, maybe it's going to be 6 weeks, but no way is this the end for her, surely. And there's been too many loose ends left, like what's happening with the flower shop. And yeah, as nice as it was for her to get a little goodbye scene at the end on Tuesday, it didn't feel like, for a character with as big a legacy as Tracy, she's been in the show since the 70s, this doesn't feel like a suitable send-off for her.
And also, we only just saw the same thing happen with her fake brother last year, with Chris Gascoigne going.
Oh, yeah.
And Peter leaving, and even with him, we're like, well, see you later. I think he'll be back.
Yeah. I mean, it was once more a case of somebody deciding to emigrate at the drop of a hat and saying, anyway, I don't need to put anything in place, I'm going. Literally, it was the space of 2 episodes. Happened. Tracy decides that she's just going to up sticks and go. It's so unbelievable when that happens. But yeah, so for anyone who's wondering still, I don't know, but I very, 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 very highly doubt this is the last that we've seen of Tracy. But hey, I was probably saying the same thing about Emily Bishop when she buggered off to Scotland or wherever it was 10 years ago, and we haven't seen much of her since.
On Monday, Steve realises that Amy's going out with Tracy later, which gets him down a bit. And when she goes, he gets out the note that he stole that Tommy left at the florist's. In the bistro, Amy's trying to tell Tracy that she doesn't need a man to be happy. But Tracy's like, I didn't really like this. Tracy's like, oh, I need a man. I need someone to hold me at night. I can't be without a man. I need someone to put the bins out. I need someone to hold me, and I'd get lonely otherwise. And Amy's like, well, your dad could have done that. My dad could have done that. You don't need Tommy to do it for you.
I didn't mind that.
Well, I think that Tracy
will usually always have a man on the go, won't she?
I know there are women like this. I just can't help but feel as though
you don't.
We've moved beyond.
Aren't you one of those women?
What, you put the bins out? Because if you don't put the bins out, you literally do nothing around the house.
That's not true.
I get you to take the bins out because I don't want to do it, but I don't need a man to take my bins out if that's what you're trying to. If I did everything, I would. Okay, fine. Then I'll take the bins out from now on.
No.
Amy reminds her. Yeah, she's said that one. No. Steve goes into number 1 later, and Tracy's parading around in his dressing gown because she's just had a shower there, and she says, "Oh, I want to get back with you," and Steve's a bit hesitant. And she does this seduction thing, like, oh, I missed you, we missed you, blah, 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 I'm back. And he says, all right, they have a hug. And then he says he's going to go and get a bottle of something to celebrate. So she lets him go off. Then he gets to the corner shop and tells Dev that they're back together again. And Dev's like, why? She's cheated on you. Why would you get back with her after this? I'm not even going to sell you this booze to celebrate.
I think I'm on Dev's side here. Steve has just been walked over throughout the whole of this story, hasn't he? And like, as soon as Tracy decided to go off with Tommy, Steve's seen it as just a bit of a joke. That none of it has had the impact that I think it was supposed to have done. As much as I like the idea of, I think this has been a bit of a revelation for Tommy as a character, but none of it has felt as impactful as the breakdown of this long-term relationship should have done. But damn right, what Deb's saying, if a woman has cheated on you and is just saying, oh, can you come back? Make her sweat. She should be at least the one going to get the bottle of something nice from Deb's, not you. Don't you think? Yes.
He goes back to the house and burns the note from Tommy. They go to the Rovers and Steve's like, announcement, everybody listen. And that was quite a funny scene with him asking them to ring the bell and they're like, I'm not ringing the bell.
Oh yeah, Glenda says, bring your own bell and ring it.
Yeah, that's funny. Everyone listen, me and Tracy are back together, and everyone's like, this is a bad idea. Tracy gets really fed up with everybody just like crapping on their good news, and she goes back home, and when she does, she gets a phone call, and it's obviously Tommy. She's saying, I don't want to hear anything from you. Yeah. But when Amy gets in later and sees Tracy has a go at her because she thinks that she got rid of the letter. Because Tommy was obviously on the phone and he's asking her what she thought about his note and she never got it.
Yeah, Amy was the one that was in the shop originally, wasn't she? When Tommy brought the letter around. Or so Tracy thought, but it was actually Steve that was left, didn't it?
Tracy thinks Amy hid it, but then she reveals it was actually Steve. So Steve confronts him.
No.
Tracy confronts Steve about this and he tries to pretend he doesn't know what she's talking about, but then he admits he burnt it and he's really sorry, and Tracy's not interested in his excuses and she's leaving him again.
It's so flimsy, this.
Yeah.
If she can decide just based on this that, oh, actually I am going to emigrate now.
But she didn't know that Tommy wanted her to go with him because she didn't get the note.
No, she didn't. So she's gone from Tommy's leaving me to now I'm going to get back with my ex to now I'm going to go to Spain. It's just so weak, and I think that Tracy should be a bit more decisive of a character and dig her heels in a little bit more.
So she's going to Spain, and so she's putting her bags in a taxi, and this was weird too because it felt like she had two exits. Because she goes in a taxi and then Steve's trying to stop her. She tells him it's all over, but can he tell Amy she'll see him before she leaves tomorrow? And I was thinking to myself, is this a Tuesday tomorrow in normal Corrie where you wouldn't see her? Is this reunion with Amy going to be off screen and they're just mentioning it because Amy wasn't there and they want people to not complain on the internet that Tracy didn't even say goodbye to Amy? Or is she actually going to be back tomorrow? In which case, why are we having this dramatic taxi exit?
Well, I wrongly assumed that it would be an opportunity for Tracy to come back and for her to have yet another last-minute change of heart so that she would stay with Steve at the end. But nope.
On Tuesday, Steve is got a hit off this dating website and Amy thinks she looks quite pretty, a bit like Mum. And Steve's like, no, she doesn't. She doesn't look anything like her.
He's still pining for her, isn't he?
Tracy's back at number one, getting her last minute essentials, including a horrible mug that Amy's made her in pottery class. She's a bit nervous. Ken assures her that she's decided, so she should do it. So they all go to the pub, and Steve's in the pub as everybody toasts to Tracy leaving, and he refuses her offer of a civil goodbye. And then Tommy arrives at the pub, and there's a bit of a stare off between him and Steve before Steve goes off with his tail between his legs. And then everybody gathers to say goodbye to Tracy again.
Almost every... That was weird. Like, what was Patty Claire doing during that scene? Because they very pointedly made a remark about, oh, Mary... What did they say? Oh, Mary hates goodbyes. She can't make it. That's it. She's too emotional. But then Mary did come back later in the episode, so it very much felt like Patty Claire couldn't be there for that scene. But also Beth wasn't there. Because this is when I quite enjoyed it. Like, Kirk was there in lieu of Beth, wasn't he? And he was like, I want to give you a hug because that's what Beth would be doing. It was almost tolerable, Kirk scene there.
Well, he was making a joke about the fact that you always pretend you don't like me, but I know you do.
Oh, yeah.
So they head off in the van, Tracy and Tommy, and Steve's at the end of the street, and he exchange a look with Tracy as she drives around the corner. Then we get everybody at the pub Kirk, Abby, Mary all talking about Tracy, and Mary says, "Oh, I quite enjoyed being friends with the bad girl," and Kirk says, "Oh, you know, we used to have such banter. She used to call me a clownish simpleton. I'm sure she's the joke is whatever." And then Abby says she'll be back. Amy finds Steve choosing this in his outfit for the date he's got. And Amy's like a bit put out that both her parents are moving on. But they did it so quickly. Like on Tuesday, they were like, let's get back together. And then on Wednesday, they're like, well, that didn't work, so I'm just going to do something else.
Yeah.
They obviously shouldn't have been getting back together because they didn't really care one way or the other.
Yeah, some stories are dragged out for too long. Some happen far too quickly. And I think that Tracy's exit here was yet another example of somebody bogging off a little bit quicker than you'd expect her to. But, you know, we haven't had a goodbye message from Kate Ford, but equally, as far as I know, I don't think there's been one from Matt Milburn as well. Do you think we're going to see him again, or was that it for Tommy O?
I don't know. I don't have any imagination for this storyline.
It kind of, how have you? It feels like it certainly got to a place where that's the end of that story. Then, if she is going to come back, then she'll probably just come back and that'll be it. So what's kind of your overall feelings of the big affair story of 2024?
I think we've made it clear as we've gone along, haven't we, that it felt a bit sad that Corrie's turned one of the longest running on-screen couples into a joke, which, you know, they always were a bit of a light-hearted couple, but both Steve and Tracy have history on the show not being comedy relief. So why turn this story into a joke? I don't know.
Yeah, it just didn't have the stakes that a big affair story should have had.
They did try to feed it to us for quite a while because they had the gap year thing. They had a few comments about, oh, we're not getting on very well.
Yeah, so it's been three months in the running, which isn't a short amount of time, but equally it's not been headline for much of that.
But I also didn't really buy those offhanded comments as particularly truthful because, again, we're being told it rather than shown it. Like, you can't just have a character say, this is happening, when you could have showed it happening.
Yeah.
In a soap like Coronation Street. It just feels a bit lazy.
And the thing is, if Tracy does come back and gets back together with Steve again, which is what I think will happen, then we probably won't get to see whether they're getting on or not getting on. We'll just be led to assume everything's all right now.
Unless we tell you otherwise.
Yeah, it's going to be like, you know, with Sarah and Adam, if they get back together again, any kind of reconciliation that's going on between them will probably be off screen, and then, yeah, we'll just be led to believe everything's fine. So, I don't know, a bit of a missed opportunity, but it was good to see Tracy back at the forefront again, because it's been quite a long time since she's been the star of the show, and like I said earlier, giving a personality to Tommy Orpington was certainly no bad thing. Let's just rush through these final storylines then, because everything else this week really was playing second fiddle to those other more major storylines. With the Roy story, we just get to see more abusive phone calls being made to the cafe. Nina's having to field them from Roy, and everyone thinks he's a bit of a nut job. And they want to be able to do more to help him, but they can't. There's the introduction on the Wednesday episode of Lauren's mum, I think, that Roy's trying to get hold of, and we didn't get to see her, did we?
She hasn't been introduced.
No.
She's been mentioned. This isn't the first time she's been mentioned, because previously Lauren said that she had to move out from her mum's because her boyfriend, Lauren's mum's boyfriend, was being a bit of a perv.
Yeah. So Roy wants to...
So she doesn't sound to me like an incredibly wonderful woman.
No.
And I hope that they don't try to pretend that bit didn't happen.
I don't think we necessarily need her in the story, but I still... I mean, if Kelly was the prototype for Lauren in many ways, are we going to get a character like Laura? Already Lauren's mum is feeling like a bit of a Laura Nealon, isn't she? So I don't know whether we...
Kerry.
Yeah. Yes, but I don't think that we necessarily need her anyway.
Like,
but
Kelly, can I just point out, Kerry and Lauren, Laura and Kelly.
Yeah, you're right. There is a whole lot of similarity in the naming convention there.
I'm just going to tell Kerry to get herself checked. She could have anything.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to die of some horrible disease.
Yeah. Anyway, David is picking up a phone call in the cafe on Wednesday as well, that somebody being horrible, and then there's a customer in the cafe that's looking over and reacting, and then this loitering coffee drinker ends up standing up and making more nasty comments to her. It's all stuff that we'd seen before. The idea that the knives are out for Daniel Osborne does get brought up again, which up to this point it had been felt like he's maybe got off the hook somewhat, because it's been Roy that's been taking all the flack, so I guess maybe we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that. And Roy at the end of the episode declares that he is going to now confine himself to his flat all day, all night, and he's not going to leave because it'll stop people being horrible to him. But I don't know whether it'll just get the wolves baying at his door even more. I'm not really sure, but that was very much a kind of setup for we're revisiting this story next week, possibly. Nothing really new happening. And then we had a little bit more of the Joseph story, didn't we?
Yeah, Linda's around. But it's basically a big fight about the uniform, because Chesney wants to buy it and Linda says, I'll buy it. And Chesney insists that no, they're going to buy it. And then Gemma has a go at Chesney, like, why the hell would you not let her buy it? Dev doesn't want to give Chesney extra shifts to buy this uniform, but he does tell him that he can borrow Ardy's old Oak Hill uniform, which seems to have been made for an Ardy about twice the size.
I know Joseph is a wee slip of a lad, but I don't think that Ardy's Oak Hill uniform would look that big. But then, why wouldn't they just have Ardy's old uniform that they could have got out of storage?
Yeah, it must be. And why would they make it? Well, I don't know. Maybe it didn't look funny enough.
Who are we to figure out the mysteries of the Corrie costume department?
Anyway, Gemma's like, oh, that looks great. And Linda says, no, it's clearly not right. And Linda says, do you want me to buy you a new one? And he says, yes. And Chesney's upset. And he says, oh, I wish I could provide for my son. Cool.
Same old, really, there, wasn't it? Just all based around a uniform.
Really seems like Chesney's incredibly naive about what going to Oak Hill's really going to entail. And Gemma was the one who actually had the reservations that were based on reality.
Yeah.
And she got poo-pooed and shouted down.
The uniform is just the tip of the iceberg, really, isn't it? There's going to be a whole lot more than just the entrance fees that they're going to be expected to shell out. You got all the equipment, the big skiing trips to the Alps or wherever that Joseph's not going to be able to go on. I mean, I'm sure that Linda will happily step in there and be the donor as required, but
if only they hadn't turned down that Freshco money.
I know. I was really disappointed on Monday's episode as well with how Paul's missing iPad story got tied up almost instantly. So when they had this break-in at the Rovers on Friday, and part of the drama there was, oh no, we've taken Paul's tablet with all his recordings on. I was thinking, oh, how's that going to play over the next few weeks? And, the regret of not backing it up and all this. And
well, hang on. Also, I thought it was weird too, and I've seen people pick up on this, and I mentioned it in the podcast, that Glenda took it in the first place. Like, she was like, don't mess around, I'm trying to do, what was she doing? Speed dating, stop talking. Yeah. She took his iPad off him, which is how he speaks. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be like, Izzy, you're really distracting me by rolling backwards and forwards. I'm going to take your wheelchair away.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be like, Jim McDonald, you're making too much noise with your crutches. Give one to me.
Paul didn't need the iPad, and he was just using it to kind of be a bit annoying, comedically annoying. So I think when Glenda confiscated it was just for a bit of a joke anyway.
I know, but yeah,
I was expecting this to turn into at least a week or two of tracking down the missing iPad, but in the end,
found it.
Basically, Brian finds it because Hope very conveniently tells him, oh, there's somebody selling an iPad or a tablet down at the precinct. And of course, this happens to be the one that was stolen from Paul the other day. Brian goes and finds the tablet seller, tries to perform a citizen's arrest, but gets pushed to the floor. but he still ends up with the tablet, so Paul gets it. So there was 24 hours worth of drama for him that was resolved far too easily, and it just makes me think, well, what was the point of that then? And then sadly we didn't get any more of the Paul storyline for the rest of the week.
We didn't even get like a little kind of addition of like Paul going, I just hate to be reliant on things and it's only going to get worse, and
no, and everything
people
with
can
him,
take stuff away from me.
everything with him losing his voice or not being able to speak properly, I was hoping to see more of, but now it's almost feels like it's been put away in a box for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, I don't know, just maybe a bit of a missed opportunity there. And then we also had Ed, didn't we, who's finally got
Aggie's
confirmation that Aggie has left the show, and we're still, we've not been told anything as viewers about what's going on with Aggie's departure. But I think the purpose of this story this week is just to say,
no more questions.
Don't ask. Aggie's not coming back
anymore.
It's not necessarily within her character, I feel, to completely
blank him like this.
Kick Ed to the curb like this, but
Poor old
I think
Ed.
we're just gonna have to accept it. That that's the last we're seeing of Aggie. Hopefully not, but
Dee Dee's got this post, and Michael's opened post to Ed, and he shows it to Dee Dee, and he's owes so much more money than they realised. Ed returns from visiting Aggie, and it turns out that she's not even looking after Auntie Corona anymore. She's fine, but Aggie's not coming back because she can't forgive him, and she's not even working at the hospital. So
this is the biggest drama.
Like, what are they going to do? Weatherfield General.
Aggie Bailey was her whole thing was that she basically ran the whole the nursing department, didn't she? And any kind of illness or ailment or condition that one of the Corrie characters developed, Aggie would be there to help nurse them back to health. And now she's not going to be there. So I think we're going to see a sad decline of Weatherfield General at this point.
Michael sees Dee Dee in the street later, and they're both sad about their mum not coming back, but they also like have to get Ed back on track with this repayment plan, and they're going to support him. Not hugely thrilling repayment plans. This is the second repayment plan that was discussed this week.
But this is all, we've had a couple of stories this week, like, so-and-so needs to, owes a whole load of money, how on earth are they going to do that?
Pay it back in instalments.
I think Ed's probably a little bit got a smaller mountain to climb with his repayment than Jenny and Daisy does. But yeah, there was nothing new here. I guess the story might well be coming back next week, but it was... the point of this was just to say, no, we're not getting Aggie back. So that's it. And also no Damon, apparently.
Damon will not be back.
Because, I think Ed mentioned him this week. I can't do my work for him because now he's gone to prison. But that really surprised me. That was in the news, Saturday, Sunday, that Kieran Griffith's final appearance on Corrie was last Friday. And did anybody else was anyone else caught off guard by that? Because we... didn't feel like it was an exit story for him, even though he was locked up in prison, which should be an exit story.
Yeah, didn't totally pick up on that being like the decisive.
No, I mean
finale.
The big punch up between him and Harvey, I guess, was supposed to be the big climax to the story. And now he's just in prison because he's a wrong un after all, and he's tried to change his spots, but he realises that he can't resist the lure of crime. But no, that was it. But I kind of thought it was they've punched out their differences. Now Harvey's
gonna join together.
now they're gonna join forces, and they'll be. Can they be? Would I have wanted to see a prison storyline starring Damon and Harvey?
Not
Absolutely
really.
not. It felt weird enough having them two just with one scene together when I wouldn't consider them as proper Corrie characters in their own right. But I just assumed that he would get out. And all of this character development that we're supposed to have witnessed over the past 6 months or so of Damon, 3 months I suppose, I've turned over a new leaf, I'm a good guy really, and are we supposed to believe that? At the end of the day, it's like, well, who cares? He's gone, and now Sarah's left adrift again, presumably to drift right back into Adam's arms at some point. But yeah, so a bit of a weak comeback for Damon. I'm not complaining that he's gone again, and Kieran Griffiths lives in Australia after all, so I guess any time on Coronation Street can only be relatively temporary for him if he's got another life over there. But is this the end of Harvey as well? Presume so. I mean, the appeal didn't go through. Yeah, maybe this was just the week for calling time on the stories that started at the beginning of the year, because the Tracy and Tommy was, the first few months of 2024. That seems to be over now. Same with this one. It almost feels like, which probably was the case. How many months should we give this story? What, these stories are going to be our 3-month stories, and then 3 months comes to an end. It's like, right, that's the end of that. Moving on to the next one.
They're also like, it's the new financial year, so we haven't got any more budget for this story.
For Kieran Griffiths and Will Mellor, maybe. I don't know. So, I can't say that I'm too disappointed to see that they're gone.
Done.
But that is it. So, yes, it was an okay week for Coronation Street. But we've had the poll running on our group already. And it looks like more people are going on the 4+, and to me it didn't hit quite in the same way. It was fine. I love a good pub-based story, but
there were some highlights there. There were some boring bits. We were very tired most of the time. It felt like we had to really force ourselves to fit Corrie in, so that might have,
I think that did affect it in some way,
how we felt about it, but I wouldn't be able to give this 4.
No, it's not a 4 week for me. And it had Bethany being a cow, Daisy being
but I like
cow.
that. I quite enjoy that.
There weren't many characters that I was really, really rooting for this week. Tracy was being a cow by dumping Steve. Everyone was just being a bit too horrible to each other this week. I'd have preferred a little bit of niceness and lightness and comedy about it. I think I might have to mega buck the trend, and sorry listeners for this, but I think I'm gonna give it 3 catfish queens out of 5. It was fine.
I'm trying to decide between 3 and 3.5. But who's your character of the week?
That's another really difficult one. Like I was saying, like there weren't many people that I was really rooting for.
You're right about, I like the feud between Bethany and Daisy, but I couldn't give Bethany character of the week. And when she came back, I was interested to see how many people were super excited about her, because I didn't really like her as a person that much. But I think a lot of people were kind of like had positive feelings towards her because of the big story she was in was so affecting. But I don't know that Bethany was ever like a super likeable person.
No.
I don't think they really concern themselves one way or the other depicting her as likeable or not in that story. It wasn't really the point. The point was the situation. So the fact that Bethany is a cow is not surprising to me at all.
I think
I'm not shocked.
I think the person I enjoyed watching the most this week, even though it wasn't consistent, was probably Daisy, because her catty remarks and passive aggressive potato chopping were pretty entertaining, but then sadly they were balanced out by the fact that she was an utter cowbag to Jenny at the end of the episode and saying, we're mean, we're bitches, and we're
thieves and liars.
We're thieves and liars, and deal with it. So I'd struggle to give it to her for the whole week, but I don't know. I mean, maybe Jenny, because she's the one with the conscience. Maybe Carla, because Ali King did put on a great performance. But this week wasn't about Carla, really, was it? It doesn't feel like it. It was... Yeah, I think maybe I'll give it to Jenny, just because of she's always good to watch and she had a conscience.
Okay.
What about you?
Trying to get away with it. Well, I still haven't really scored it either.
No, you haven't scored it whatsoever.
See, I don't want to be swayed by online votes. I would have given this a 3. I'll give this a 3. I'm going to give this 3 pointlessly purchased pavlovas.
Nice.
And I'm going to give it to Daisy.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, you know, Daisy's an interesting one because of recent times she has not been likeable, but she came in that way. So who's the real Daisy? That's the question.
Yeah, I've had just been pulled one way and the other about Daisy constantly, and maybe for some characters that's good, and not everyone is a complete villain and not everybody is an angel. But
yeah, I think that's right.
The one, you know, the minute that I start feeling some kind of sympathy for her, I'm told, oh no, don't, because she's a cow.
Bethany and Daisy are both really interesting
characters.
characters.
I really want to like her because Charlie Jordan is a really...
she's funny.
She's
got great reactions.
Yeah, she's really brilliant to watch. She's such a charismatic performer, but then when the character does things like this, it just makes me go, oh no, I want to like you more.
But anyway, like I was saying, Bethany and Daisy are both interesting characters because they've gone through incredible traumas, and I think that a lot of people have projected kind of positivity onto them because of what they've gone through and the fact that they were victims of crimes and had to deal with the aftermath. And I think sometimes everybody knows this, we kind of what's the word where you make someone a saint?
Sanctify.
We sanctify our victims, don't we? And so Bethany and Daisy have been assumed to be actually really nice people, but they're not. They're just very complicated.
Daisy's highlight, the period when I enjoyed watching Daisy the most was when she was suffering at the hands of stalker Justin. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what she did with Ryan and catfishing him and then secretly dating him behind Daniel's back actually wasn't very nice.
She's not a nice person.
But she is really funny sometimes.
She's really funny.
She's really funny sometimes.
And I think they're trying to do the same thing with Bethany. But yeah, let's not pretend that they're both angels. I think we should just quickly, I know we're not going to do the feedback properly, but could we just read out the scores for next week?
For last week's episode? Yeah, if I can find it. Let me just... oh my gosh. Sorry, caught me off guard.
We've done all this now, haven't we? We've done all the street talk stuff.
Yeah, last week's Coronation Street on the Facebook group got 3.7 out of 5, so that was a fairly high week as well. Rebecca scored it 3.5 mouthfuls of roast dinner and apple pie liquidised for Paul out of 5. Lucy, 3.5 VR chickens that chased David out of 5. And Richard was my top pick of the week with 3 disqualified plumbers.
So there we go. Thank you, everybody. Sorry that we couldn't get to most of the feedback, but those are the scores. And I think we'll have to leave it there, won't we?
Yeah. You know, hopefully you understand why the podcast is a bit late this week. The episode where we talk about our trip up to Manchester and Belfast should hopefully be out in the next couple of days. I mean, it might even be Sunday night that one comes out, so do look forward to that. And if you like a good video diary of our times when we go away, then hopefully this will scratch that itch for you, because we've got plenty of footage to share. So that is it. Thank you everybody for listening. Let us know what you thought of it.
And that's
podcast, Corrie, whatever. And hopefully next week we're going to be in for a nice treat, especially if the Tracy storyline is done and the this Damon story is done, and you know maybe we'll at last get a return of the Institute story, which has been so teased. I want to know more about that, but there's only been about 3 scenes with it.
It is possible that it will herald in the story that shall not be named that people are mad about.
Quite possibly.
It's a similar set of characters. So we're going to have to see where that takes
us.
It's not quite as funny as we thought it was going to be, maybe.
So anyway, time to go. Thank you everybody for listening. Goodbye for now.
Bye.